Hi guys, good day once again. This is Kule. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'll be talking about the 302nd MPR Monetary Policy Committee meeting. MPR release. MPR is the monetary policy rate that directs the financial service industry on how funds, liquidity is being managed and priced in the economy. So it's very important. If you're not financially savvy, I bet you listen to this clip, this short video explaining the MPR, how money is being applied in Nigerian economy. So it's very important. Please join me as we x-ray the committee's pronouncement. So we'll start with the MPR. That's the monetary policy rate. It's pegged at 27% for now. It's a reduction of 50 basis points from the last committee meeting. The last one was 27.5. This is pegged at 27%. That's a 50 basis points reduction from whatever it is. And MPR is like the pivot, it's the anchor for whatever is happening in the financial service industry as regulated by CBN. So they moved to CRR, that's the cash reserve ratio. They reduced CRR to 45% from 50% that it was before. This is massive. This is a whole lot. Reducing 5% in CRR means a lot to commercial banks, and I'll tell you why. If, for example, now your share capital is 200 billion, 5% of 200 billion, that's a lot to fund a whole lot of things. It can be to the SME market, it can be to the individual personal banking sector in the economy. But I'm telling you, it improves liquidity in the economy. 5%, just calculate 5% of 200 billion. That's a lot in the economy. For merchant bank, their CRR is retained at 16%. We all know that merchant banks serves like lender of last resort. They perform almost like same function like CBN, save that they don't give policy direction or regulate, because they deal in a large ticket transaction. Merchant banks are not banks you go to and say, I want to open savings account as individuals and all this. You can only do those ones with the commercial banks. So liquidity ratio is retained at 30%, which is still what it was at the last MPC committee meeting. Now, there's something very interesting that happened around that liquidity ratio. So you will recall with me what they used to call TSA account. So gonna do this maybe about 5-10 years ago when they implemented the TSA policy, meaning that they moved all government money to CBN and say every money should be with a government fund, public sector funds now reside with CBN, or at best the ones they kept in some commercial banks, they now say they must only maintain a single account, which means companies like maybe an MPC can no longer open accounts almost everywhere again. So they centralized it into a place and say all your monies stay with one bank. So you sweep, even if you collect from any other place, you just sweep and move to that bank. So it stifles some banks of that liquidity and then enrich some banks which were the host of the accounts of liquidity. So what happened this time around at the 302nd MPC meeting? They now said, okay, you know what? For these specialized TSA accounts that will reside in some banks, some commercial banks, let us create a liquidity ratio around it. And then the committee arrived at a 75% liquidity ratio around those accounts. So it means that if you maintain NMPC's account now with all the inflows that come into it, before there was really no policy direction as to how to manage that account. So now it means the bank will sterilize 75% of that fund that stays in their coffers, and when CBN is reviewing their books, 75% of such funds, they can't touch it. But 25% of it can now be released into the economy for you to create additional monies, to create loans to maybe corporate organizations, maybe to create to SMEs, to create to personal banking space. So in essence, that releases more liquidity into the economy, and it helps the economy to also jumpstart activity and then overall affects the GDP, that's the gross domestic product of the country, and that's how they rate countries at the end of the year. They will tell you this country is a $1 trillion economy. If you look at the ranking of Nigeria now in the top 10 economies in Africa, Nigeria is also stepping up in its game, and we're increasing our GDP day by day. We grew month on month, I think about 3.4% GDP growth that was achieved. The inflation has come down to about 20.2% now. So it means something is happening around the economy, really. and it's a function of how money is being played. So liquidity ratio, like the MPC committee in their wisdom came and said, you know what, for all this treasury single account, for some of this public sector related account, I would stay with commercial banks. Let us place 75% of these funds on in the liquidity ratio, and let them be able to use 25% of those funds to support the economy. Then we'll move to the asymmetric corridor. This is a tricky one. So people just hear asymmetric corridor. What does asymmetric corridor mean? So to a layman, you just say, what is it mean, asymmetric corridor? Before now, asymmetric corridor hovers around 500 basis points / 100 basis points, plus 500 minus 100. So meaning that if you go to CBN, recall I told you that the MPR is the anchor. It stays in the middle like this. So if you swing to this side or you swing to this side, it has a gauge, and that's what the asymmetric corridor is talking to. So when as a commercial bank you go to CBN to say, my liquidity is short, I need to take overnight takings to short because there's an expected amount of liquidity that you must keep in the coffers of the central bank, and if you're short of that, that means you have to take overnight with CBN. At that point, they used to charge them 500 basis points in addition to whatever the MPR is saying. So for example, when MPR is 27.5, we charge them additional 5%, which brings it to 32.5, which means that the interest, the cost of taking that overnight then was 32.5. But now CBN in their wisdom has said they reduced that to plus 250. So it means instead of adding 5% to this 27%, we just had 2.5% to it, which reduces their cost of fund from 32.5 now to 29.5 if you're taking overnight tickets from CBN. But then again, they now said, okay, let us incentivize those who have surplus, who are given to CBN. So they have enough. You're supposed to keep maybe say 10 billion with CBN, and you have 20 billion. So it means you're giving surplus because it's from your own money that they will lend to the one that has shortfall. Do you understand? So those ones, they are now saying you'll be compensated 27% less 2.5. That will be your compensation, do you understand, for the funds you have kept with us, which brings the asymmetric corridor to a minus 250 basis point. So that's the balance really. So it's neither here nor here. So it means you're not losing too much if you keep too much with us, and then you pay as commensurate if you also borrow from us. So that's what the asymmetric corridor is actually speaking with. Now, how this will play in the economy, we still don't know for now, because Nigerian economy, Nigerian market is a very funny one. So people can rush into the market today and take up all the available liquidity, and then demand outweighs supplies, and then price goes up again. It's a natural law. So when demand outweighs supplies, price will go up. When supply outweighs demand, price will come down. Do you understand? So we really don't know, but you can take advantage of it. Ask a banker if you're paying higher interest rate today. You can negotiate to do it and say, the last MPC has reduced and has relaxed the rate for you guys. So I expect that you should also reduce the interest rate on my loan. Do you understand? Also, if you're an investor, you're investing funds and you've been demanding for higher interest rate, this is a time where the company will come back to you and say, you know what, we can't pay those high interest rates again because there's really nowhere we can take it to. So we have to reduce the interest rate we're paying to you. So guys, expect this interplay in the market in the coming days. And I wish you well. I've given you some information and some tips that you can use to also negotiate in the market. So see you on the next one. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and spread and share it amongst your friends so that everybody can be financially literate. Thank you very much for listening. See you on the next one. Bye for now.